An influencer named SlimKim got on the internet last week to let everybody know that her favorite thing to be is skinny, and people are mad. People are very mad. The video has since been removed after being mass reported and flagged by TikTok, and she did come out with a follow-up video to that, which I will post later along with the original video. Let's just actually watch, before I even get into this, let's watch exactly what she said, because context and words matter.
My favorite thing to be is skinny. And I fear you cannot say that out loud, but it is my favorite thing to be, and it is my favorite fear to not be. And this is just for me personally. This is all personal to me. But I just wanted to say it out loud because honestly, it's all I think about. It's all I think about. Okay.
Now for that 30-second video, she has been the topic of conversation for the past few days. And given some of the responses I've seen, just along with what's been going on in society, especially with the rise of Ozempic, I think it's really safe to say that body positivity is dead. And so we're gonna touch on a lot of things in this video. Let's get into it. Aloha, beautiful humans. Welcome to my channel if you are new here. Welcome back if we've been locked in. My name is Sasha, and today we are talking about the replatforming of thinness, particularly extreme skinniness, how this is now something that we are saying in our society again, because it hasn't gone away, right? Like, thin being the ideal has not gone away. It is just that with the rise of the body positivity movement, we've kind of had to fake as a society that we are welcoming of different body types. However, thinness hasn't gone anywhere. It is just that fat phobia has kind of gone underneath the surface. Putting thinness on a pedestal and that being the preferred and ideal body type within the media and within certain spaces, that hasn't gone anywhere. We have just seen a rise in body positivity as a result of a lot of pushes for diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation. These conversations that have been happening since the mid-2000s, we have seen more inclusive spaces. Bigger bodies, larger bodies have always been a part of the media. However, the only thing I think that has changed is how we view larger bodies and how they are portrayed. Before, they used to be seen as the butt of the joke, disgusting. If it was a fat woman, she was always seen as desperate, not the beauty ideal, not the beauty standard. So we have always had fat people within the media, bigger bodies, larger bodies. However, how they are represented has changed, I want to say, over the past maybe 9 or 10 years. However, as I said in one of my previous videos, everything that's happening, trends, body types, fashion, everything is cyclical. Everything comes back 20, 25 years around, and that is what we are seeing now. We are seeing a return to that late 90s, early 2000s standards of beauty, specifically colorism and fat phobia, and having lived through it as a dark-skinned Black woman. The fact that I have any self-esteem at all or did not regard myself as horribly ugly or anything growing up, I think really is a testament to the fact that my parents always were so positive. My parents, my family members, my aunts, my uncles, anyone around me, I was always told that I was beautiful, that I was smart, that my skin was gorgeous. I never felt growing up like you couldn't tell me I was not the beauty standard. You couldn't tell me I did not fit the mold. And I think that is because my parents were very intentional about the media that we were taking in. And we also just didn't have cable. So I wasn't seeing certain things for a really long time. I think that we went without cable from me being maybe in my 7th or 8th grade year. No, I think it was like my 5th or 6th grade year. We went from not having cable through like maybe sophomore or junior year of high school. But I am one of 7. I come from a large family. We only had one TV. So even if I wanted to watch certain things, it's not like I was going to get the TV anyway. So it didn't matter. And I think that because of that, because I wasn't really allowed to watch a lot of TV, we weren't going to the movies, things like that, I was really shielded from a lot of media, and I didn't really see the kind of, or I wasn't even cognizant of how Black women, especially dark-skinned Black women, the absence of us and the ways when we were present, how we were portrayed. I really didn't see that until maybe college and post-college, and by that time my self-esteem had already formed. I was really grounded and confident and rooted in myself, so I really didn't go through a lot of esteem issues as a result of being a dark-skinned Black woman. I was always pretty skinny growing up. I didn't really get any like weight to me until after I got, like, you know, I gained the freshman 15 and then I think it fell off. And then after, I want to say 25, 26, that's when like I've picked up some weight. My body started to change and I was like, oh, this is different. Like, this is different. This year I've lost 30 pounds. And so I see it most in my face. I really don't see it in my body, but I look at videos of myself from this time last year, even earlier this year, and I'm like, oh my God. At my largest, I was a size 10. I'm now a size 6, 8. At my smallest, I think maybe I was a size 2 or 4. So yeah, that was like, yeah, in college, I was like size 2, size 4. So I've gone through versions of myself in a larger form and a smaller form. And while I can't speak to being treated differently because I was bigger, because I know people will look at me and be like, you are a straight sized person. As somebody who is in the fitness industry, who is bigger than a size 4, yeah. we could talk about it, but that's a separate video for another day. I want to talk about how some people have chosen to respond to SlimKim's video and have a deeper conversation about what I think we are going to be seeing over the next 4 or 5 years as a result of us becoming more conservative as a society. So first and foremost, this is what Kim had to say in response to all of the backlash she was getting.
Once again, I am the victim of saying the wrong thing out loud on this app. And I would just like to say that my 30-second video saying that my favorite thing to be is skinny was a joke, okay? And this is coming from someone who has had chronic cankle and fat face, okay? I was just making fun of the fact that I figured it out. I figured out how to lose weight in my face, and I figured out how to get rid of my goddamn cankles by going to bar and Pilates 5 fucking times a week. So I am so damn sorry for pushing an unrealistic beauty, toxic, horrible beauty standard. I cannot believe that I have contributed to such a toxic conversation. And I would also like to add, moving forward, I will never, not one time, talk about my size ever again, or how I prefer to look, because I'm not allowed to talk about those things. And I have learned. So thank you so much for coming to my TED Talk. Love you all so much. You know, for me personally, I'm gonna shut the fuck up.
Watching the initial video and watching her follow-up video, I'm gonna be 110% honest. She's entitled to feel how she feels. I laughed at it. I didn't really think that there was anything wrong on its face. I do think it bears a larger conversation about fat phobia, but I think people's responses to it were absolutely rooted in their own level of projection. The way a lot of people responded lets me know that a lot of people were using this as an opportunity to talk about how much they dislike her. She does say some pretty controversial things. I wouldn't even say that her content is controversial or even problematic, because I have seen people be on the internet with larger followings, with larger communities, with people who love them, say and do vastly more problematic things and still have platforms, still have followers, still get brand deals. You know, so I can understand why people reacted to what she said the way that they did, but I also think the amount of hate was very disproportionate to what she said. The amount of hate she is getting is very disproportionate to what she said. And a lot of people took this as an opportunity to not only attack her physical appearance, making fun of her lips, alleging that she has lip filler, calling her ugly, which ugly where? Like, that girl is beautiful. You can dislike whatever it is about her. You can hate her content. You can think she is an agent of chaos, but she is undeniably a beautiful girl. So to say she is ugly, like ugly where? Now you're lying. Don't lie. I don't like liars. Some people have used it as an opportunity to be xenophobic. SlimKim is Nigerian American like me, so I'm not just taking up for her because she's Nigerian American. I will call us out if I feel like we need to be called out or in. However, people have used this as a lame opportunity to fuel the diaspora wars instead of to discuss what is at the root of what she is saying. Because SlimKim, her favorite thing about herself being skinny, that doesn't exist in a vacuum. The idea that being skinny is a status symbol, that doesn't exist in a vacuum. And that's what I want to talk about today. While some have taken this as an opportunity to attack her, there are some who are able to see the forest through the trees, and attacking her is very lazy. It's like it's the lazy thing to do. It requires very little thought. It requires little interrogation. It doesn't take you that step further to interrogate why you reacted so strongly to what she said. People reacted so strongly to what she said because, as I discussed in a previous video and I really want to dive deep into today, we are returning to fat phobia as a society. And not just fat phobia, the fat phobia that we are now going to see is a result of extreme skinniness, extreme thinness becoming back on trend. Body positivity is dying out, and as a result, we are going to see an uptick in certain behaviors, and not just certain behaviors, but certain trends and rhetoric in our media. And we're going to see a rise of this most notably on social media, because that is how most of us are interacting, interfacing, and seeing the world around us. As we become more conservative as a society, more right-leaning as a result of increased white nationalism. I won't even say white supremacy, because white supremacy has always been there, but this white nationalism and this conservatism that is going to be pervasive and is already has been in our faces on social media, in the media, has already been in our face, but we are going to see an increase in that over the next 4 years with this presidency, and we are absolutely going to see those trends occur on social media. That is the place it will be the most harmful, especially young women and young girls who are consuming social media to a concerning degree. And we now have the statistics to show how social media is damaging young adults, young teenagers, and people in their early 20s whose prefrontal cortexes are not fully developed, so they do not understand the nuances of what exactly it is they are taking in and how harmful it can be to buy into and believe this rhetoric without having all of the information available to them. SlimKim doesn't exist in a vacuum. Skinny being her favorite thing to be doesn't come out of nowhere. We exist in a society that has beauty standards, and it has perpetuated these beauty standards to now they have become the norm in our society. The society that we live in pushes certain norms, standards of beauty, and not only does it push these norms and pushes these standards of beauty, it rewards people for meeting those standards of beauty. All SlimKim did was say the quiet part out loud. We all know this to be true. If we all were being honest, we would all say that we want to be rewarded and reap the most benefits from existing in this society. And if we could all snap our fingers and be skinny and reap those awards, 9 out of 10 people would say yes. And if you would say no, I want you to drop down into the comments and let me know why you would say that, because I don't think that is coming from a place of honesty, but I'm just very curious to hear it. And I also want to be very clear that I'm talking about American beauty standards, because being thin is not the standard everywhere, right? When we're having this conversation, we're talking about it from an American standpoint, but beauty standards are going to be different everywhere. We just live in a country that was founded off of white supremacy, so our beauty standards are white supremacist in nature. All Kim did was say the quiet part out loud, and because she said it, she was the one who said it. And there's another girl on TikTok, she kept on getting her account suspended and deleted. They were saying that she was posting pro-Anna content. Now that girl, what she does and what she says, in my personal opinion, is a lot more extreme than what Kim did, what Kim said, what Kim does. But anyways, her content kept on her account. I think the last time I checked, it was deleted again, and she started a third account, so I don't know what the status of it is. But what they're doing is saying the quiet part out loud, and it's very easy to attack them, and it's lazy to attack them though. The bigger issue, and who we should be attacking, is society and holding ourselves accountable, because we all participate in this consciously and subconsciously. In my video a few weeks ago, I talked about what the country moving more right would mean for our society, and not just in terms of policy and politics, but in terms of our culture and how we would see it being reflected in the media, in fashion, in music, and most importantly, in the place, like I said, where it would be the most visible, where we are spending more time now than ever on social media. We've already seen it with the death of body positivity in the age of Ozempic. The body positive movement, the way I remember it, I think it was at its height in like 2015, 2016, and that's around the time that I started to gain a little bit of weight. My body was changing. And so for me being able, like, it was kind of hard for me to deal with, I'm not gonna lie, because I'd always looked one way aside from my freshman year of college, and I just made like better choices. But you know, you're younger, your body, your metabolism is different. Around 2016, 2017, I was in my later 20s and I'm like, oh, things are different. And I found the body positive movement around the time where I was starting to feel insecure about my body. And at the time, it was something that was new. It like taught me that, okay, I didn't have to be really skinny. I could accept having a little bit more curves, or, well, I ain't got no curves. I ain't got no booty. I still ain't got no booty. I think I'm the only African I know that ain't got no booty. I need to talk, whenever I meet up with my ancestors, I'm gonna be like, what happened? Were you not in line that day, or did you oversleep when they were giving out booties to everybody? Like, I got personal beef. But anyway, so I found the body positive movement around that time, and it was completely different than what it has become now. And what it has become now, well, before it died, but before we just saw it fall off the map, what it introduced to me is that accepting your body the way it is now and not trying to shrink your body. It taught me to be proud of my body, to work out, to be strong, not to be skinny, to eat, to fuel my body, not to always remain in a calorie deficit or in a state of losing weight. It really taught me at a time where my body was changing that it is something that is still beautiful, and it can be beautiful in different forms. And I really needed it at the time. And when it was something that was created, I think it was really positive, and I think the community was really on board with that general message. However, over time, it has absolutely morphed into something I would not want to be associated with, and has strayed so far away from its roots that it was only a matter of time before it kind of died out. The body positive movement, like I said, it started initially as something that was a good way to celebrate all bodies in a very fat-phobic society, as well as in a colorist society that elevated whiteness and white supremacy when it came to beauty standards at the detriment of anyone who wasn't a size 0 or didn't have blonde hair and blue eyes. And the reason why I bring up colorism is because there's a book that I read, Fearing the Black Body, and it talks about how fat bodies, how being fat is something that became demonized in Europe, and that fatness obviously spread to when colonizers were moving outside of Europe, because they associated fatness with Black Africans with some type of laziness. And so being fully figured, having a fatter body was regarded as lazy, and that is absolutely rhetoric and a mindset and a stereotype that has carried down generation after generation after generation, and it has impacted the way Black women are portrayed in media, especially fuller figured and fat Black women. Colorism, racism is absolutely tied into fat phobia. The body positivity movement has also been associated with the HAES movement, health at every size. Even though they are two entirely separate movements, the body positivity movement and the health at every size movement, the health at every size movement is an offshoot of the body positivity movement. And to say that you can be healthy at every size is extreme. Connecting something so extreme with something really positive with people who are already looking to punch down on body positivity, because people are like, how dare these fat people enjoy their bodies? And the diet industry is a billion-dollar industry, so of course they're going to look to it as something that is going to negatively impact their bottom line and push against it. So I think that there were a lot of negative voices against the body positivity movement that were going to try and use everything to attack the movement. And I think, unfortunately, because health at every size was such an extreme movement that became attached and people kind of used it synonymously with body positivity, I think people regarded the movement a little bit more negatively and critically than they would have if people would have just separated the two. That's just my personal opinion. On top of that, I think honestly what killed the body positivity movement, if it was not criticism from the outside, it was infighting within the community. Over the years, we have have seen certain members that have been regarded as pillars of the community, Jess Holiday, or even particularly Lizzo, who a lot of people in the movement put on a pedestal when she decided that she wanted to lose weight. A lot of people from the body positivity movement took that very personally and attacked Lizzo, saying that, oh, she was giving in to Hollywood and she really didn't care about body positivity, and she just attached herself to that movement and that community so they could bolster and support her career. And as soon as she made it to a certain level, she completely did away with the community. And it was like, oh my God, like Lizzo has said countless times, Lizzo is a performer. She is very active. She is a dancer. She plays the flute like she wanted to be. And she's talked about this many times, wanting to be in the best shape that she could possibly be in, not only for her own health, but for the longevity of her career. And also when she performs, so she's not out of breath, so she's able to give people a show. And that's going to involve her eating better, taking care of her body, going to the gym, and as a result, she is going to lose weight. And that's not necessarily to say that she just used the community or she just wants to be skinny. And even if she wanted to be skinny, so what? It was as if once you made it to a certain level of success or even looked a certain way in the community, if you wanted to lose any type of weight, you were giving in and you were being fat phobic and you were, it was just so much infighting with the community that I ultimately think that was the biggest death blow to the body positivity community. Even though there was a lot of infighting within the body positivity movement and a lot of extreme ideas and opinions, I do think the body positivity movement, I do want to credit it to the diversity we saw in media and in modeling, not just runway modeling, but I loved the Dove campaign. I thought like Dove campaigns really were hitting. Even Victoria's Secret jumped in and started diversifying their runway show, especially the Angel show. But again, that infighting, people couldn't even agree to what inclusivity looks like, what diversity looks like. Is it just racial diversity, or is it diversity in body type? Is it diversity in height? Is it diversity in hair? People couldn't agree on what this diversity actually looked like and how it should be celebrated and measured. There are so many claims from people that Victoria's Secret, especially the show, destroyed their self-esteem, destroyed their body image, and made them feel like in order to be beautiful or to be a bombshell, they had to be a size 0, they had to be a size 2, they had to have big boobs, 0 waist. And the show came back this year and it had plus size models, it had trans models, they had a very, what I thought was a pretty racially diverse cast of models on the runway. And some people applauded it. Meanwhile, you had other people say it wasn't inclusive enough and it was performative. So at a certain point, it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And I think a lot of people have just come to this place, unfortunately, that what we do is not good enough. It seems like the body positive movement cannot decide what the end goal is or agree upon what actual tangible change looks like, and all of this infighting has completely killed the body positive movement. While the infighting, it didn't necessarily kill the body positivity movement, it did erode it. However, I want to say Ozempic came along and Ozempic was like the final death blow to body positivity. As soon as Ozempic came out on these streets, it was like body positivity where? It's like Skinniness, get in the car. Something that Kim said to me that stuck out in some of her follow-up conversations was that skinniness is a status symbol, and she is absolutely correct. Being thin in this country is associated with many things, particularly wealth and beauty, but also, very curiously enough, discipline. And I don't think enough people talk about it from this perspective. People will say things like, oh, why can't you just eat right or get in the gym? And that requires, yes, a certain amount of discipline to have a certain body type. However, there are levels to this being skinny. If it's not something that occurs naturally for you, because I want to make that very clear. As we're talking about this conversation, it is not for the people who are naturally thin. My older sister, for example, has always been a bird. Baby girl is this big. When I say she is a bird, she is tiny. She is tiny. I think I could wrap my entire, this right here would be, okay, my wrist is that big. What I'm saying is she's just a tiny girl. My older sister is very small. She is naturally a very small person. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about those people who it is a project, it is work, it is effort to not only get skinny, but to remain skinny. That is the discipline that I am talking about. That is the discipline that Kim is referring to, and that I absolutely agree with, and that I don't think enough people understand, that there is a certain level of discipline. Let me not say enough people, because there are a lot of people who will be like, when I finally got down to my goal weight, it required a lot of restriction and it was just exhausting and I couldn't maintain it anymore. So people are absolutely aware of the discipline that it takes to remain that skinny. But when Kim said it, it was like there was this disingenuous reaction that I personally didn't like, because it's like, y'all know. Again, y'all are mad at this woman for saying the quiet part out loud, but nothing that she said was a lie. It does require a certain level of discipline for many people who are not naturally thin to maintain that body. It takes a certain level of mental strength to delay gratification and satisfaction that comes with food, especially if you are one of those people who food is your trigger or food is your comfort, or if you have an unhealthy relationship with food that leads you to certain binge eating disorders. You acutely are aware of the fact that it is so much mental work and discipline to delay that gratification, that gratification you get, that satisfaction you get from food, whether it be sugar or salty, sweets, whatever, to delay that gratification because you want your body to stay a certain way. Again, I'm not pushing this. I'm not promoting it. I'm not necessarily saying it is a positive or negative thing. This is a reality. And also, like I said, I have lost 30 pounds this year or over the past year. And it has been as a result of, I haven't really changed what I ate. I've changed the quantities of what I eat. I teach indoor cycling for a living, so I'm pretty active. However, it was changing my diet, changing my approach, like something that, I don't want to turn it to, this is not the video to talk about that. But what I'm saying is that there is a certain level of discipline involved to be a certain thinness though, because I think I'm just a regular sized, average size 6'8" person. Like this isn't a lot of work. I think this is naturally what my body is supposed to look like. And so this is my natural set point weight. If I wanted to lose, however, any more weight or pursue how thin I was at a younger age, when I was back in college, back in my early 20s, that would be an unnatural thinness for me. And it would require a certain level of discipline and mental fortitude that no. I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, and I don't have the desire. When we talk about weight loss and being skinny as a status symbol, another status symbol, a part of that status symbol is privilege. Not just thin privilege, and I absolutely want to address thin privilege. I've kind of talked about it a little already, but we'll talk about it a little bit more. But there is absolutely privilege in pursuing being thin. Not only being that societal standard of beauty, but you are rewarded by society, by people for being thin, but to even become thin, it is a privilege in and of itself. Some may purport that having the time at all to exercise is a privilege that is not available to some, because even though people say, oh, we have the same 24 hours in the day. Anyways, I don't even want to touch on that because I think that is ridiculous, and it is absolutely privileged to say that. So it's not just a time privilege to have that time to work out, it is also the privilege of having access to quality foods. And while somebody may be like, that's not a privilege, there are grocery stores everywhere, how is being able to grocery shop a privilege? People underestimate the prevalence of food deserts in this country. I live in an area where I can throw a rock and hit probably 6 or 7 grocery stores. Like there's a Whole Foods, there's a Trader Joe's, there's a Harris Teeter, there's a Safeway, there's a Giant. I think I got 2 or 3 Giants. I have a lot of options. I live in an area where I am privileged, where it is a privilege to be able to have access to good quality foods. There are some people who live in certain communities where the freshest fruits and vegetables they're gonna find is at their local corner stores, at their local bodega. And then when they find it, it's overpriced. So food deserts are absolutely a thing. There are people who do not have access to good quality food. Being able to access good quality food is absolutely a privilege. To maintain a certain level of thinness, it is absolutely a privilege, and it does require not just discipline, but also money. If you don't have time and if you don't have discipline, Ozempic has come around and said, let me change all of that for you, because you too can be skinny. You may not have time, you may not have discipline, but if you have money, thinness is available to you. Oh, Ozempic said, hello, what's up? We changing the game now. Ozempic, I know we've all heard about it before, but if this is your first time hearing about Ozempic, well, Ozempic is a semaglutide injection that, along with diet and exercise, works to improve blood sugar, aka glucose, in adults with type 2 diabetes and can help reduce the risk of major cardiovascular events such as heart attack, stroke, and even death in adults with type 2 diabetes with known heart disease. A side effect is weight loss, and it comes with a hefty price tag. So like I said, if you couldn't diet, if you couldn't exercise, but you had the funds, Ozempic is available to you. There has been a lot of controversy over people using this as a weight loss drug due to the shortage, driving up the price for people who actually use it and need it to treat their diabetes, with people criticizing those who have chosen to use it as a vanity drug as opposed to a needs-based, possibly life-saving drug. However, just like people attacking SlimKim, like I said, people need to interrogate themselves, to interrogate their thoughts, feelings, and opinions, and recognize if they're coming from a place of projection and reacting based off of their own personal experiences. I think we also need to be honest and ask ourselves, why are we at a place in society where people would line up to buy semaglutides made to treat type 2 diabetes that they don't even have, and possibly open themselves up at risk for possible side effects to taking a drug that they do not need? Why we are at a place in our society where anyone would line up to purchase those drugs for the express purpose of being skinny? That is the question we need to be asking, not attacking, shaming, and putting down people for using these drugs, but instead asking ourselves, what would be so great a benefit that people would risk their lives and pay out the wazoo for these drugs? What is the reason? That is the conversation that we should be having. That is what's missing, because again, the same way it is lazy to attack SlimKim for her favorite thing being skinny, it is also very lazy and easy to attack people using semaglutides, using Ozempic to get skinny, instead of attacking and interrogating society for creating an environment that people would hate or would fear being fat so much that they would instead risk their safety and their health to be skinny in the pursuit of thinness. That is the question. That is the conversation we should be having. It's almost as if there is some sort of award or reward or better life and opportunities available to people, real or imagined, that they would feel that would motivate them to take Ozempic and use the resources and access the resources available to them to open up themselves to opportunities that are being denied to them as a result of our fat phobia as a society, as a result of us constantly putting thinness on a pedestal. This is where thinness as a status symbol comes into play, and we need to stop attacking individuals and, like I said, interrogate our societies, interrogate ourselves. Most importantly, we collective WE, we support consciously or unconsciously due to our implicit biases and the halo effect. We support and uplift certain beauty standards. And in this country, because our beauty standards are rooted in white supremacy and European standards of beauty, that is what we are upholding and pushing collectively as a society. Beauty standards in this country are rooted in white supremacy and fat phobia. And despite this being undeniably clear, we have not moved the needle. We have not moved the needle much. Like I said, the body positivity movement did have some impact, especially over the past, I want to say since 2015, 2016, we have seen companies and organizations do a better job of diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation when it comes to certain beauty standards in modeling and campaigns and branding. We have seen them do a better job, but not much. Speaking of beauty standards, I want to backtrack a little bit because I talked about my experience as a dark-skinned Black woman growing up. Even though as an adult, I am fully aware that I do not fit the standards of beauty in this country, as a child, you could have never told me otherwise. I remember the first boy who told me I was ugly because I had dark skin. I couldn't conceive it. One, because I was like, ugly where? Ugly where? For one. And for two, this boy is blacker than me. This boy was dark. Okay, I'm dark, but this boy was like, you know, seal dark. And I'm looking at him like, boy, you darker than me. How are you gonna say I'm ugly, but you're darker than me? I didn't get it. And that was the first time. I remember I was 12 years old. This was the 6th grade, and I didn't like this boy. So I think he probably was lashing out because I told him I didn't like him, though I didn't feel the same way about him that he did about me. So that was like my first, you know how people like try to holler at you and you're like, no, I'm good. And they're like, that's why you ugly anyway. And you're like, why would you want to be talking to me that if I was so ugly? Like, make it make sense. But that was the first time in my life that anyone had told me I was ugly because I was dark skinned, and my brain just could not compute. And my brain still does not compute because never for a second have I ever believed that I was ugly because of my dark skin. But you do have some dark skinned people who believe that, and I do not fault them for believing that, because you live in a supremacist society enough. We are all a product of our environment. You live in a space enough that society and every single message, media, it is constantly being reinforced and pushed on you that you are not good enough. You are not the standard of beauty. You will start to believe that. Some people will start to believe that. And this is why I'm like really intentional about parents being aware of what your children are watching and what media they're taking in. But a lot of people I don't think a lot of people critically thought about it, what SlimKim was saying from the perspective of being a dark-skinned woman and how privilege and white supremacy works in this country. Because while she is a dark-skinned Black woman, she does not benefit from the standard of beauty in that way. She is thin, and she benefits from the standard of beauty in that way. So when you have a privilege, whatever privilege you have, you are gonna do your best to hold on to that and use that to your advantage. Some people said that Kim posted a video a few months ago, maybe last year, the year before last, where she said that she was just now starting to really enjoy being Black. That to me tracks. It tracks. And it tracks because, like I said, there are some people who will fall, unfortunately, they will be more susceptible to anti-Black rhetoric. I count myself very lucky that I was never susceptible to that rhetoric as a child, as a young adult, as a young woman. And at a time where my development, it really would have impacted my development. Not everyone is as fortunate. And so if Kim was on the receiving end of so much anti-Black rhetoric growing up, because I also know she was raised in the suburbs, I was raised in the suburbs as well. However, I was raised in a very diverse suburb. I don't know what type of suburb she was raised in. Maybe she was raised in one of those environments where she was the only Black girl there, or the only dark-skinned Black girl there. I think there is, on top of thinness being a privilege, we also need to look at it from the lens of colorism and how all of these privileges are intersecting with one another. Being skinny in the Black community comes with a far different perception than it does in other communities. So if she was growing up a skinny Black girl in an all-white environment, she may not have been regarded as beautiful because she was darker skinned, but she would have been regarded as beautiful because she was thin, because she fit that standard. If she was around her Black peers, though, an all-Black environment where thinness is regarded a different way, and she was made to feel ugly as a result of her thinness, or undesirable, not ugly, because like I said, she is a beautiful girl. If people, though, were saying that she was unattractive as a result of her skinniness, it would make sense that she would latch onto a community or not be comfortable with her identity, but instead identify with another community where her thinness with how she was presenting was put on a pedestal. Y'all, do y'all understand what I'm picking up? Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? Let me know in the comments. I haven't been skinny since college. I haven't been skinny and thin like her since college, but I remember there were times where people, you know, teased me, and the most teasing that I got about my body was from other Black people. I don't really hold a grudge about it because kids bully one another. Unfortunately, that's what some kids do. Not all kids. Some kids just bully one another, and your bullies are going to be the kids around you. Most of us live in very segregated communities, so the people who are bullying us are going to look like us. That's why I really don't understand when there are some Black kids who are like, I don't like Black people, and I didn't get along with Black people because Black people were the ones who bullied me. And it's like, well, if you grew up in an all Black environment, of course, Black people are going to be the ones bullying you. We live in very segregated communities. Most of us are being bullied by people who look like us. And so, like I said, I grew up in a very diverse area. So some of my bullies were Black, some of my bullies were white, and that was just it. I was bullied by everybody. It's not funny. It's not funny. It's not funny. I did make one of my bullies cry though, and he finally stopped messing with me, which sucked because we were really good friends in elementary school. And then out of nowhere, he gets to high school and decides he's going to start hanging out with a different crowd. And, you know, they were a little R to the A to the CISD. They were racist. You know, they were terrible people. And I don't know what made him switch like that, but I said, this is the last time you gon' this is the last time you're gonna pick on me. This is the last time you're gonna bully me, because at least I know where my dad is. At least I know where my daddy is. Where's your daddy? Oh, wait a minute. Your dad did not want you. And he just started crying on the bus. Years later, I'm happy that I did stand up for myself and clap back at him. And because we were friends in childhood, I knew that was an insecurity of his, and I kind of felt bad in that moment for calling it out. But how are you gonna bully me to impress these racists? Like, we didn't grow up together, we were friends. Like, bye. But anyways, okay, I got sidetracked. Anyways, all of this to say, if she was one of those people who was bullied by Black kids and it made her feel uncomfortable with her own Blackness, so now she identifies with something that is a standard of white supremacist beauty, then we can't be mad at her because that is her experience. And like I said, anybody, most people would try and find something that is a privilege in this society and use it to their benefit. Feel like it is their status symbol. That is the case for a lot of people. She just unfortunately said the quiet part out loud. That is where Kim messed up. When you have a trait that puts you on a pedestal while also having features not typically desired or regarded as beautiful or as a status, it would absolutely make sense. One might put that on a pedestal or see it as a status symbol, be aware that it is a status symbol, and use it to their benefit and seek to constantly be praised for it. It's kind of like reminds me of those biracial people who their username is mixed Jessica, or biracial Jessica, or curly haired Stacy. You know, like these things that we uplift as a society in forms of standards of beauty, how people take it on as their personality trait. Like, right now there's a light-skinned woman somewhere, and that is her entire personality trait, just being light-skinned. That's it. Like, baby girl ain't got no personality. She is just light-skinned, and it has been her bio since middle school. Y'all know exactly who I'm talking about. This video is getting a little long, so we're gonna wrap it up. I promise. I just have a lot to say about this, and thank you for being here. If you're still here, I don't know, drop a pink heart into the comments. Let me know you're here, and we'll wrap it up soon. When I talk about interrogating yourself and holding yourself as accountable as you want to hold people like SlimKim, who talk about having privileges in our society, look at the people you follow on social media. Are your feeds, are who you support, are who you follow, are what you follow, are you inclusive, or is it the same old, same old? Do you treat people better, or do you treat them worse because of how they look? You know, it is so easy to point out everything wrong with what everybody else is doing, but it is so much harder to interrogate ourselves and make sure our actions are lining up with our words. Something my dad always said to me growing up, and I still carry with me to this day, is when you point a finger, there are three pointing back at you. So when you're ready to accuse somebody of something, you better make sure you are not guilty of the same thing and out out here being a hypocrite. Basically, those in glass houses should not throw stones. We are absolutely going to see an increase in conservative rhetoric in our culture and in the media that will show up in trends, aesthetics, fashion over the next few years. And it's already in our faces. Like I talked about it in our last video, but that Jake Paul fight against Mike Tyson, that is absolutely a signifier of, again, this increasing white nationalism and rhetoric that we're already seeing, and that's going to increase over the next few years. This whole trad wife lifestyle, absolutely an indicator of where we're going conservatively. Donald Trump Jr.'s response to the results of the Miss Universe pageant, the reversals of the BBLs. You see the Kardashians started this whole BBL trend and now they're all reversing their BBLs. There's this attack on higher education, distrust of news and media, and also financially the increasing cost of living. That is absolutely going to inform a lot of the trends that we are going to see over the next few years. As although we are not on track for a recession, it is important to note that a huge talking point during this election cycle was the cost of living. We're talking the price of groceries as well as just the price of everything. It is expensive to live now. Last year, there was this increase of lash techs, nail techs, hairstylists saying that they were going back to 9-to-5s because the business was not what it used to be. Reading in between the lines, people's purse strings are getting a little bit tighter, and now these things are going to become luxury services. They're not things that you need, so getting them is a luxury. Now, do I personally think a lot of these girlies are going back to 9-to-5s because they can no longer get clients because they are unprofessional, because they are rude, because they lack and have, in general, horrible customer service skills? Yes. Yes, I do think so. And I think that is absolutely something that is informing a lot of them going back to 9-to-5s. However, this is also part of the reason why I think looking at luxury lifestyles is so intoxicating for some people, and we're gonna see a return to influencer life and content creator life being something that is not accessible for everybody. As we continue to see this increase in the rise of the cost of living, we are also going to see these things that were once regarded as luxury items that were accessible to, you know, just you and me, the average person. I think we're gonna see people fall away from that, and we're gonna see that type of lifestyle and luxury content only available or only displayed by influencers and content creators of a certain, who are trying to push a certain type of lifestyle. I absolutely foresee a rise in DIY everything. Hair, nails, lashes, a lot less fast fashion, a slowdown in trends when it comes to clothes cycles. More specifically, we're not gonna see every 6 to 7 weeks a new outfit trending, a new boot trending, the must-have bag, the must-have glasses, the must-have whatever. I don't think we're gonna see that as much anymore. I do think we'll see a rise of the retro, kind of a return to thrifting, which we've seen a little bit over the past year or two. I wanna say I've seen a lot of people talking about thrifting, especially de-influencing a minimalism. I think we are going to see a rise in both of those for sure. I think we're also going to see an uptick in people making lifestyle content about living more stripped down lives. So again, minimalism. I kind of got off track about that. Like, those are just my personal predictions and I kind of got off track. So let's go back to skinniness. Like I said earlier, fashion trends and just cultural trends kind of recycle themselves every 20, 25 years. We're about to be on 2025, and there was something that distinctly happened in the late 90s, early 2000s that I remember coming up during that time. And I didn't have language for it then, but just looking back on that time and looking back on that trends and seeing where we are now and what was happening then, I absolutely think we're seeing a return of that cycle. And I'm not just talking about like fashions and trends. I'm specifically talking about not only the body type, the body aesthetic, you know, that Y2K kind of heroin chic was it. Oh my goodness, I remember, was it Kate Moss? Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. Like, oh my God. That was absolutely a thing. But particularly, it was this post 9/11 time where I distinctly feel like the roaring 90s, like that fun, that lifestyle, living la vida loca, that came crashing to a halt in the post 9/11 kind of climate. Going back to Oh my God, Kate Moss, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. Being bigger than a size 2 was regarded as fat, and it was eating disorders were so normalized. It was across all of the magazine covers all the time. Like I remember when they would catch like pap walks of Britney Spears or Paris Hilton and point out their cellulite. And I'm like, at the time, these women were like literally size 6 and size 8. I remember, oh my gosh, do y'all remember that one Britney Spears performance where I think she had just given birth and they were talking about she was fat? And I'm like, baby girl's not even a size 10 yet. It was a crazy ass time. It was a crazy ass time. The mainstream media was like, there was pro Anna content everywhere. The mainstream media was so horribly misogynistic and abusive towards women. And my God, being a Black girl coming up during this time, highly abusive, extreme violence. You did not see a Black woman darker than a paper bag anywhere outside of the video vixens shake and tail in music videos. Let me like think about this for a second. There was Tweet. I remember Tweet, Missy Elliott, Kelly Rowland. And yeah, that's about it. That's about it. As far as like dark-skinned Black girls during that time, I'm at a loss. I couldn't tell you. And I mentioned post 9/11, you know, that was God, I remember that day. It took my dad like 6 hours to get home. Like, oh my goodness. After that, we were so unified as a nation, but that unification, that patriotism quickly turned into nationalism. And we saw an uptick in violence and xenophobia against the MENA people, against people of certain communities. There's something very interesting that also happened around that time is that the diversity that we saw in TV and programming, like there were so many diverse Black shows on so many different networks, like Hanging with Mr. Cooper, The Cosbys. I know we don't laud it anymore. I'm just saying it was an example. Family Matters, Tia Tamara, like a sister. There were just, oh my goodness, what was the other one? What's that one with LL Cool J and Tatiana Ali and, oh my goodness, In the House. I think it was In the House. I can't remember what, oh my gosh, the Parkers. There was so much diversity in programming on television in the late 90s. By the early 2000s and the mid 2000s, you completely saw all of that disappear. I think also like UPN disappeared around that time, and UPN was really good about platforming really diverse shows. And after that, you really didn't see a lot of diversity on television. You didn't see a lot of representation, and a lot of that diversity in sitcoms from the 80s, from the 90s, it disappeared. And what replaced it was reality TV shows, which bring in this modern day minstrel show that we still see nowadays with Zeus Network and VH1, and that is another story for another day. Everything that I've said, the patriotism giving way to rampant xenophobia, nationalism, the lack of diversity on television, those sitcoms being replaced with reality TV shows, Zeus Network, VH1, all of those things that were happening in the late 90s, early 2000s, fast forward to today, it is still occurring. And not only is it still occurring, we are going to see a rise in all of this. So coming out of all of that from the late 90s, early 2000s, we get to 2015, we get to 2016, where we see this body positive movement, which was confronting all of the fat phobia we were seeing in media, we were seeing in TV, we were seeing on the news, we were just seeing in daily lives and our lived experiences and our realities. We see all of that being confronted. And now fast forward 10 years later, even though body positivity, the movement did try to put a dent in fat phobia, and I do think the body positivity movement had a lot of wins, and it gave us language to describe a lot of, you know, the ills surrounding fat phobia and the ways that fat phobia impacts people from not just, you know, beauty standards and, you know, beauty perspectives and body image, but also how people are treated in the medical field when interfacing with doctors, and also how it can impact people's livelihoods as far as career goes. So there's a lot of tangible harm that fat phobia does, and the body positive movement was making strides in confronting all of this. But unfortunately, we are now in a place where body positivity is dead, and I do not think that we will ever see it. Well, let me not say never, because like I said, everything gets cycled 20, 25 years. So maybe in the 2000s and oh my gosh, 40s, we will finally be having this dialogue where we will discuss all of the harmful things we are now going to see happen over the next few years. So in closing, SlimKim, what she said is problematic, right? It is concerning. And do I think that people are acting from a place of projection due to their own experiences around how they are treated as a result of their body type or their negative self-body image? Do I think that it is a projection? Absolutely. However, fat phobia is real, and it is something that does tangible harm to people, and it is a problem within our society. It is a problem that needs fixing. So while it is an issue within our society and the discourse we're having about it is valid, attacking a single individual does not move the conversation forward. It just perpetuates this rage cycle that we constantly see on social media where nothing gets done. We're not really interrogating the systems that need to be interrogated. We're just dunking on and lashing out on somebody because it feels good, but nothing comes from that. Attacking an individual about something they said when they were simply speaking their truth about what they like about their body, what their favorite thing is to be, and what we know to be true about society is lame. It's freaking lame. And you know what? I get it. Somebody gave a really great example about why people were so hostile to what she said, because being thin is a privilege. And if you look at our beauty standards and what we uphold as a society, it would be the same thing as somebody uplifting, like saying, my favorite thing to be is light skin. Like, you remember when Danny Lee, I think it was like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, made that dumb song, like yellow bone is what he wants. You know, she made that song to antagonize the baby's dark skinned baby mama, and she rightfully got flamed for the song because it was stupid. Because first of all, it was a stupid song. It was just a dumb song. Number two, she is a white Latina. She is not a yellow bone. A yellow bone is an African American or a black person who is more fair skinned. She's not a yellow bone. And number three, it was just a stupid song. It's a stupid song. But anyways, she came back, like she clapped back at people like, oh, brown skin and dark skin people, you know, India Arie can make brown skin and Beyonce can make brown skin girl, and they're uplifted. But where's a song for the light skin girls? The light skin girls don't need a song. And the light skin girls don't need a song because they are already uplifted by society. They're already on a pedestal because of colorism, because of European beauty standards where you are praised. The lighter you are, the closer you are to whiteness. So a light-skinned girl, a yellow bone, wouldn't need a song the way it would never hit, and it would never be necessary the way a brown-skinned girl or Brown Skin by Beyonce or India Arie would hit and would be necessary, because brown skin, darker skin is demonized within our society. It is called ugly. It is not appreciated. It is not put on the same pedestal. So I completely understand people saying that SlimKim, regardless of whether it was true or not or a reflection of society, it was an unnecessary thing to say. And I 110% agree. Kim is absolutely entitled to her feelings, and I think people's reactions to her were deeply unnecessary. I think there's a difference between discourse and attacking somebody because you disagree with what they said, especially since her comments were about her. She didn't say anything about anybody else's body. She left her commentary to her own body, saying that her favorite thing to be was skinny. And in a society where we do put that on a platform, where we do put that on a pedestal, where people are rewarded for showing up and being nothing other than skinny, we need to interrogate ourselves as a society instead of throwing stones at someone who recognizes the privilege that she has with being thin and is just having a conversation and talking about it. No matter how off-putting it is to us, all she did was tell the truth. And if people are still so upset about fat phobia, what are we doing about it other than hopping into a content creator and influencer's comments on social media and attacking her for a comment she made about her body? How are you holding yourself responsible and accountable and being the change you wish to see in the world? How are you tackling fat phobia? How are you being an agent of change in the fight against fat phobia. You don't have to be a part of the body positivity movement to make change or to be an agent of change. It can just involve simply educating yourself and speaking out and being a voice in spaces when you see fat phobia occurring. Drop down in the comments, let me know if you saw Kim's video, what you thought about it. Are you one of the people who participated in attacking her, or you just don't understand what the big deal was about what she said? Drop down in the comments and let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, peace out.